Welcome, class. We're going to start with our very first flip video, and what we're going to do this weekend is a quick video on just exploring your textbook. So go ahead and get your textbook out. If you don't have it handy, go ahead and pause the video and go ahead and grab your pre-algebra textbook. You may pause now until you have this book in front of you. All right, you should have your textbook in front of you. Go ahead and open up the front cover. You should have your name on the inside front cover and your book number. And on one of the title pages, you ought to have something already recorded in your book with my cell phone number. And yes, that is my personal cell, 321-7254. And you've heard me say this already probably in class, but that is the number you can call anytime you have a question, literally 24/7. If it's late at night and I've gone to bed, my phone will be off, and just leave a message and I'll get it first thing in the morning, and I'll look for you first thing when we get to school. So 321-7254. If it's not already there, go ahead and write it right in the front cover of your textbook, and we're going to move on. Go ahead and turn the page to the first table of contents page. I believe that is page IV, and you'll see something called Contents in Brief. Alright, you should see a page like this. Down in the bottom corner it'll have IV, and this is real quickly the chapters that we're going to be going through throughout the year. And so you get a quick idea of exactly what's in store for you for this year in pre-algebra. We're going to start with algebraic expressions, integers, and just read on down through this list. We are definitely going to cover all the way through the first 10 chapters. We will cover topics from both 11 and 12, and if time permits, we'll even get into some of the topics in chapter 13. So go ahead and read down through this list, allowing your mind to kind of think about the kinds of mathematics you've already seen that would kind of fit into these units. So give it a second, read down through this, pause your video while you're doing that, and then we'll pick up going through and talking about more specifics about chapter 1. So go ahead and pause this recording right now while you think about and go through the contents in brief. All right. Now glance over at the Chapter 1 page. This is the table of contents for Chapter 1, and as you can see, these should be some topics that you have some familiarity with. We're going to be going through this chapter very quickly. This is mostly going to be a review chapter, so get ready, strap your seatbelt on. Let's look quickly through these variables and expressions. Okay, a variable is any symbol, usually a letter. A lot of times we use X and Y to represent an unknown quantity, and you should have seen these before. Expression is a combination of numbers and variables. Something like 3 plus 5 is an expression. That's a numeric expression because it's only got numbers. 2x plus 5 is another expression. This one's called a variable expression because it has a variable. What's missing in expressions is an equal sign. Okay? If I give you something like 2x plus 5 equals 7, now we have an equation, not an expression. So you can think of an expression as the building blocks, the pieces that you would use to build an algebraic equation. Order of operations you've seen for many years now. That is the order in which you do things like addition, multiplication, parentheses, exponents. You probably know it by Please Excuse My Dear Aunt Sally or PEMDAS. So we'll be talking about that. And again, this is going to be a quick review. Evaluating expressions. If I give you an expression like 2x plus 5, we mentioned before, what would the value of that expression be if x is equal to 1? Well, substitute 1 in, and 2 times 1 plus 5 would give you 7. That same expression, if x was equal to 10, think about that for a second, 2x plus 5, if x was equal to 10, ought to yield 25. Evaluating expressions will be just that. Integers and absolute values. Integers is code word, think about it, positive and negative numbers. So when you see the word integer, we're talking about both positives and negatives. And we'll talk about how to add and subtract integers, as you'll see in 1.5 and 1.6. We'll also talk about the absolute value of an integer. And the absolute value is the symbol that looks like vertical bars on either side of a number. And we'll see more of that in just a second in this video. Looking for a pattern, each lesson in this text series has a problem-solving lesson. So whatever we're doing, whether we're studying integers, or we're studying algebraic expressions, we're studying graphing, one lesson in each chapter will be devoted to problem-solving. We'll spend a little bit more time on that. We'll spend a good day on that. And this particular strategy for problem-solving will be looking for a pattern. Finally, we're going to wrap up with integers. We're going to talk about not just adding and subtracting them, but multiplying and dividing them. You'll see that in 1-9. And finally, the coordinate plane. The coordinate plane is the graphing plane, also known as the XY plane, where you take a point like 3, 5, and you graph it on a plane. And we'll learn which number refers to left and right, and which number refers to up and down, and how to graph ordered pairs. Now, we do use both positive and negative coordinates, which is why the coordinate plane falls in the integer chapter. So there's a quick overview of what we're going to be doing in the first chapter. Now, backing up just a second, the absolute value would be a symbol like such. That stands for the absolute value of x. This would be the absolute value of 7. And the absolute value is just how far is a number from 0. So the absolute value of 7 would be 7, and the absolute value of negative 7 would also be, and let's think about that, how far is negative 7 away from 0? Well, it happens to be to the left of 0, but it's still 7 units away. So both of these are the same. Basically, the absolute value of any positive number will just be the number. Okay? And the absolute value of any negative number will be the positive version of that number. So it'll actually be the negative of the negative number. Because a negative of a negative, think about that in English. We're not supposed to use double negatives. Because the negative of a negative, well, they cancel out, it's actually a positive. So down below you see that the absolute value of negative 7 is just 7. Or it's the opposite of negative 7. In any case, this will become a lot more clear when we go over section 1.4 and the absolute value. But that's the absolute value symbol. You've seen it before, and it just means how far is this number from 0. And the absolute value of a number will always be non-negative. It could be 0. The absolute value of 0 is 0, but the absolute value of any number, positive or negative, will always be a positive number, with the exception of 0. All right, so that's a quick overview of Chapter 1. What we'd like you to do this weekend is just kind of familiarize yourself with the rest of the chapter. And when you come in on Monday, we're going to talk a little bit more about this. Please have 1 or 2 questions that you have about the chapter, about the layout, about what we're going to be covering, and we're going to hit the ground running on Monday. So that is the end of this flip video. Thanks for watching, and welcome to class. We're really looking forward to a great year. Take care, everybody.